Hello everyone. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, Breams. Like this video, share and subscribe. Today we are going to be talking about the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system is an organ system in vertebrates that is part of the immune system and complementary to the circulatory system. So the lymphatic system consists of the lymphatic vessels, lymph nodes, lymph node organs, lymphatic tissues, and the lymph. Okay, so uh, the circulatory system, as you all know, is a closed system. So the lymphatic system is open, is not closed like the circulatory system. So we are going to have the lymph originating in the interstitial fluid, which leaks from blood in the circulatory system into the tissues of the body. So this fluid is itself it carries nutrients to cells, and it collects waste products, bacteria, and damaged cells before it is then drains the lymphatic into the lymphatic vessels as lymph. Okay, so we are going to have uh, the main function of the lymphatic system. You're going to have the main function is immune system defense. It plays a very the lymphatic system plays a very important role in immune defense. Okay, so lymph on its own is very similar to blood plasma in that it contains waste products and cellular debris together with bacteria and protein. So the cells of the lymph are mostly lymphocytes. So associated lymphoid organs are composed of the lymphoid tissue and are the sites either of lymphocyte production or of lymphocyte activation. So these are going to include the lymph nodes. This is where we are going to have the highest concentration of lymphocytes. Okay, moving on, we are going to have the spleen, the thymus, and the tonsils. So lymphocytes are initially generated in the bone marrow, and you're going to have the lymphoid organs also having other cell types, which are going to have the stromal cells, which are important for support. Okay, so the lymphoid tissue is associated with mucosas, such as the mucosa-associated lymphoid tissue. So let's move into the structure of the lymphatic system. Okay, the lymphatic system consists of a conducting network of lymphatic vessels, lymphoid organs, lymphoid tissues, and the circulating lymph. We are going now to discuss the primary lymphoid organs. The primary lymphoid organs include the thymus, bone marrow, fetal liver, and yolk sac, which are responsible for generating lymphocytes from immature progenitor cells in the absence of antigens. So the thymus and the bone marrow constitute the primary lymphoid organs involved in the production and early clonal selection of lymphocyte tissues. Okay, now let's go to the red bone marrow. So bone marrow, specifically the red bone marrow, is responsible for the creation of T cells, precursors, and the production and maturation of B cells, which are also known as lymphocytes. And B cells are very important are very important cells in the immune system. So from red bone marrow, B cells can immediately join the circulatory system, and then they are going to be traveling to the secondary lymphoid organs, searching for pathogens. So T cells, on the other hand, we are going to have them travel from the bone marrow to thymus, where they undergo a multi process to develop immunocompetency. So within the thymic cortex, developing T cells rearrange their T cell receptors genes and are subjected to positive selection. And this positive selection is going to ensure that that T cells are capable of recognizing self-major histocompatibility complex molecules, which the ones we call the MHC, which are going to, that are maybe too weak to bind, they are going to die. So T cells can move to the thymic medulla, where negative selection removes T cells that binds and self antigens with high affinity. So as a result, you're going to have autoimmune disorders being prevented. Now let's move on to the thymus. Okay, so now what is the thymus? The thymus increases in size from birth in response to postnatal antigen stimulation. So, what happens in the thymus? So, in thymus, we are going to have T lymphocytes mature and become immunocompetent. The absence of thymus is going to bring about immunodeficiency, and it may have make someone be very susceptible to infection. So in most species we are going to have thymus being separated uh, by septa, where we are going to have lobules for the thymus. Okay, so T cells, we are going to have T cells mature from thymocytes, and they proliferate and undergo a selection process in the thymic cortex before entering the medulla, where we are going to have them interact with epithelial cells. Let's move on to, okay, just briefly. The thymus is going to have an inductive environment for developing T cells from hemopoietic progenitor cells. And next is the secondary lymphoid organs. So the secondary lymphoid organs, we are going to have the lymph nodes and the spleen. They are going to maintain mature naive lymphocytes, and they are going to initiate adaptive immune response. So the secondary lymphoid organs are going to be, they form the sites for antigen activation. And this is going to lead to clonal selection and affinity maturation. So mature lymphocytes circulate between the blood and the secondary lymphoid organs until they enter their specific antigen. So let's now look at each secondary lymphoid organ as a individual. So we are going to start with the spleen. Okay, so the main functions of spleen are, it is going to provide immune cells to fight antigens. Secondly, it is going to remove particulate matter and aged blood cells, mainly red blood cells. And thirdly, you are going to have production of blood cells during fetal life. So the spleen therefore synthesizes antibodies in which white pulp, and removes antibody coated bacteria and antibody coated blood cells by the way of blood and lymph node circulation. Let's move on to the lymph nodes. The lymph nodes is an organized collection of lymphoid tissue where we are going to have the lymph pass through on its way back to the body. So lymph nodes are located at intervals along the lymphatic system. So you're going to have several afferent lymph vessels which are going to bring the lymph, which is going to perforate through the substance of the lymph node and is then drained by the efferent lymph vessel. So the lymph itself is the lymph itself, we're going to have selection of B cells is going to occur in the lymph nodes. We are going to have the secondary lymphoid tissue, which is going to provide environment for the foreign or altered naive molecules. Yeah, so I would like to do another video to describe the lymph nodes alone as a whole, so that we can really understand what goes on within the lymph nodes and what lymph nodes actually are and the contribution they have in the lymphatic system. Because unlike, like we've said, unlike the blood circulatory system, the lymphatic system is an open system. So we are going to have to discuss more. We're going to be touching on the tertiary lymphoid organs and other lymphoid tissues and lymphatic vessels, because we have not touched about the lymphatic vessels, so we are going to have the talk about it. But now we can briefly describe the functions of the lymphatic system. So we have the first one is it is responsible for the removal of interstitial fluid from tissues. Secondly, it absorbs and transports fatty acids and fats as chyle from the digestive system. Thirdly, it transports white blood cells to and from the lymph nodes into the bones. And then lastly, the lymph transports antigen presenting cells, such as the dendritic cells, to the lymph nodes where an immune response is going to be stimulated. And with that, that's all for today. We are going to, I will catch up on cancer, lymphedema in the previous videos, in the next videos, sorry. And kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel so that we can continue having interactive sessions. And you can comment on what other topic you want me to touch on, and then we can see what we can do. Thank you.